the economy is sort of in question from a consumer confidence perspective. Normally, unfortunately or not, like when the economy does worse, higher ed does better. In theory, we should be sitting here thinking, okay, well, enrollment's going to go up. I just don't know that's going to happen. And if I was a betting person, I don't think it is.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Higher Ed Pulse, your Monday morning energizer covering insights and trends in higher ed marketing and enrollment. I'm Mallory Wilsey, bringing over 15 years of ed tech and marketing expertise to your earbuds.
And I'm Seth Odell, joining the Pulse with my own adventures from leading marketing at top universities to founding Kanahoma, one of the industry's fastest growing digital marketing agencies.
Each week, we bring you the kind of insider insights you typically only find over cocktails with your pals at a conference.
It's fast, it's fun, and it's designed for you, the busy higher ed professional.
You're not just listening to another podcast.
You're checking the pulse of higher education.
Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher ed professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Can I just say what we're all thinking? That intro music, it slaps. I seriously want it. Yeah, I want it for my next spin class. Not gonna lie. Our intro music is gold.
It is very good, and it's very different, and I am a big time fan. I love it. I'm so glad we picked it.
Other things you love. I hear you got a new dog recently, but you were on a vacation and then you happened to get a dog and can you explain this to me? How does that happen?
So I got a dog, Gigi. So if someone is able watching the video, she's in the corner. She's the cutest little dog ever. She's a rescue from Mexico. I went on a video production for one of our clients and I came back and we had a dog. Adopt, don't shop if you can, and adopt older dogs if you can. It's always great to support great organizations trying to help good animals.
The future Bob Barker, Seth Odell.
A little bit. That was a little bit right there, huh?
All right. Well, we are not going to waste any time. Let's just get right into it. Seth, we were chatting yesterday about this new Dentsu report that came out. Let's talk to me about it. What's going on?
Yeah, so if folks don't know, there's an organization called Dentsu, that Dentsu. They put out these Consumer Navigator reports. It's basically checks on where's the consumer economy, like how are things going with consumer behavior, purchasing. There's a new report. I don't know if it's actually out yet or if it's out to be soon. It was shared with me kind of privately, but it was from a survey they just did 2 weeks ago. So it should be out soon. It's called the American Mindset Report. It was really concerning, candidly. It just highlighted kind of how challenging the economy is right now. A few of the data points that came from the Dentsu Consumer Navigator American Mindset Report, 69% of respondents feel the economy's either not very good or terrible. Even fewer consumers think the economy will improve in 6 to 12 months. So since the last time they asked that question, it's getting worse. 68% of respondents report experiencing an unexpected expense or decrease in household income. Basically, the net is many Americans are struggling to afford basic expenses and more consumers are cutting back and consumer confidence in the economy is declining. The challenge with that is that it's a little counter to what we're seeing in the market. The stock market is performing well right now. And so the macro market from an economic perspective is doing okay, but it is clear that the majority of consumers are not feeling that benefit. And the majority of folks are
feeling
a recession, whether we're technically in one or not. What I shared with you in Slack and why I shared it this week is okay, this big concern about the current economic forecast for consumers. Historically, higher education has been counter-cyclical, which means as the economy does worse, enrollment does better. But the question I had this week is is that going to be the case this time around? Historically, higher ed does better when the economy does worse because people go back to school. But I think there's stuff that's different this time around. At the same time that we're seeing an increase in this economic uncertainty, we're seeing a decrease in the confidence in the college degree. So a separate study came out about 65% of current college students say college isn't worth it. we're also seeing growth in non-degree alternatives, right? Micro credentials in vocational work. We didn't have the gig economy the last time we had a recession in 2008 and 9. And so I just think there's so much different. So where I was just left at was that, the economy is sort of in question from a consumer confidence perspective. Normally, unfortunately or not, like when the economy does worse, higher ed does better. In theory, we should be sitting here thinking, okay, well, enrollment's going to go up. I just don't know that's going to happen. And if I was a betting person, I don't think it is. And it feels to me like this is a different time than it was maybe in the 2008 and 9 financial crisis. And so that was where I was like, I don't know how to make heads or tails of it, but I'm just not so sure that we're going to see an increase in enrollment, due to economic uncertainty.
So what's really interesting is the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center just released a report on January 24th. They actually have found that undergraduate enrollment is up. It grew 1.2% in fall 2023 compared to 2022. And this data is really good news actually for community colleges, because among those gains, it was enrollment at community college institutions that increased the most at 2.6%. Private and public four-year institutions had increases of less than 0.6% in comparison. So community colleges, right, actually do often see a more significant boost in enrollments compared to their four-year friends during
Yeah.
recessions. So I don't know, Seth. I mean, I've got some data that's
Yeah.
challenging your assumptions.
You may be right in the sense that it could be, that consumers are more cost conscious. So perhaps really the question is going to be on the private side, higher sticker price programs, are they going to really see a bump or not? And, maybe the answer is no. And so maybe the answer is people will go back to school. The question is where, and maybe that's what might be different this time around.
Those micro credentials, though, that you brought up, I mean, that's
Yeah.
interesting too, because the certificate programs, anybody who maybe is looking at the recession or this economic downturn and saying, hey, this could be an opportunity for me. It'll be interesting to see if those programs actually do increase or not.
I would bet more on vocation than I would on micro credential. We are seeing more demand for micro credential, but it is just impossible to market. It costs more to acquire most micro credential students than they pay to, take their courses. And so the economic model doesn't make sense, even if the market sort of wants it. And so it just, I don't know. To me, the takeaways are it feels very different this time around. And I'm just really curious what's going to happen. And the big thing for me is if you follow the stock market, it all looks like the economy is doing well. And so then the question is, what is happening this time around where like the economy appears to be recovering, but consumer confidence is not? And what
Mhm.
does that mean? And maybe that's really where I'm just sort of like really interested in watching and curious, a year from now, are we going to see growth? And to your point, which I think is really fair, we may see it, but we're not going to see it in all places. And so, if anything, that would be good for community colleges. They had one of the hardest times rebounding from COVID. And so we would all be happy to see that sector do well. But yeah, I don't know, I'm watching. This is one that's definitely been on my radar this week.
Yeah. So, our audience of listeners, many of whom are marketers, it's like, what's the takeaway? Like, how can you, right? Like, so we're not 12 months from now looking back saying, oh, crap, I should have done these things. Where should marketers be focusing right now? And my bet is there needs to be obviously a lot of empathy in the communications that folks are sending out. So any tips on how to prepare your marketing communications in light of
Hmm.
this report?
I'd say there's two things. One, I will say that when in doubt, scholarship marketing always works. And so, if you do have an opportunity in your institution that can increase scholarship and increase aid, that will increase conversion.
Hey everyone, it's Mallory. I'm hosting the Engage Summit this summer in Raleigh, North Carolina. The theme of the conference is AI Got You. We're not just talking theories. This conference is your guide to understanding and applying AI at your institution. By the end, you won't just get AI, you'll be ready to lead your campus through an AI transformation. It's for everyone who wants to use AI to level up everything you're doing. Whether your focus is to recruit or retain, the summit offers a platform to learn, network, and bring back actionable insights to enhance your student engagement strategies. I hope you'll join me and some of your favorite Enrollify creators in Raleigh on June 25th and 26th, like Jamie Hunt, Dustin Ramsdell, and Allison Tercio. Use the discount code Enrollify50 and you can register for just $99. So join us at the Engage Summit this June. Learn more and register at engage.element451.com. We can't wait to see you there.
The second thing I would say is that don't position on price, position on value. And so I think in particular, if consumer confidence is down, people are questioning their investments. And that's not just money, it's also an investment of time. And so I do think like consumers are going to be looking at perceived value, which is the equation of perceived value, as I was taught when I was at Southern New Hampshire, was perceived value is perceived cost minus perceived benefit. Meaning someone's looking at you and thinking like, how much is it going to cost? How long is it going to take? What's the probability that I'll finish? And what's the likely outcome? And that's the story to have. And I think too often people position narrowly on price. And if you are a low cost leader in the market, you may think that makes sense. But I have marketed extremely affordable programs that were very hard to sit because the lower cost they are, the lower the consumers have confidence in the quality of the program. And so it circles back to that conversation of consumer confidence again. So I would focus on value where you can, increase scholarship when you can. And then I don't know, just hold on because I think it's going to get a little bit rocky.
Buckle up. I
Exactly.
can't not take this opportunity to plug the keynote speaker at the upcoming Engage Summit in Raleigh this summer. Melina Palmer just dropped a book this month called The Truth About Pricing. And I read it in, like an hour and a half flight last week. It's a quick read, but it's fantastic. It absolutely connects to the conversation that we are having. And I'm not going to spoil anything. If people want to go find her book, they should. I can't recommend it enough. And then you can come to the Engage Summit, meet her, get it signed, and hear her keynote. So
I love it. That is a great topic. I'm so excited. I didn't realize she was speaking. That's really exciting.
excellent. I'll send you a copy. All right. So let's move on. Connected to this idea of value and consumer confidence in the education system, the article that came across my desk this week is actually about Pennsylvania. There is a significant tuition reduction plan that the governor has proposed for low and middle income students, where the cost would be incredibly affordable, only $1,000 a semester. The plan's in response to challenges like declining enrollments, demographic shifts, financial pressures, et cetera. But the governor has put this forward. He unveiled the pitch recently. It would also create a performance-based funding model, and it's specifically for PASHE, which is the 14 state four-year institutions and the 15 community college institutions. But what is wild to me about this program is that it excludes Penn State among a few other institutions
That's
that are
interesting.
public. Yeah. And so I started looking into this, Seth, and okay, cool. We're going to decrease this tuition for this particular population. But last year, Penn State raised their tuition by 2%, and they're not in this plan. And when you look at the Penn State enrollment compared to all of those 29 institutions in PASHE, it is almost the same. Like Penn State actually enrolls a few thousand more students than PASHE combined. And then you
Wow.
look at the state funding, and Penn State is getting somewhere in the range of $350 million from the state annually. PASHE's getting about $550 million. So can you tell, rhetorical question, but like, why is Penn State getting a pass here?
Yeah.
And now my mind, we at Element 451 work with a lot of community colleges. So I am always thinking about that population. This really undercuts the cost saving value prop for those institutions. When the 4-year is the same price as the community college, how, like we've been talking about pricing, how are you going to message around cost saving value?
There's a lot going on in Pennsylvania. I'll say I was, I'm friends with a couple of former very senior academic leaders there. And obviously it does sound like a lot of it is a mess and political. I will pause and say any effort to reduce the cost of education to the benefit of a student I champion, obviously, but it's the implementation that I question in particular. In this case, the concerns are sort of which institutions do or don't get this significant tuition reduction. We're talking about a dramatic reduction, and it feels like it's not necessarily equitable from an institutional perspective. The example I'll show that's a little bit different out of the state of Mexico. The state of Mexico actually has something called the Opportunity Scholarship, which, when implemented correctly, can almost make in-state education almost effectively free. But that education is available across, I have to check before I say every institute, almost every institution, at least community colleges, four-year programs. It's a unilateral scholarship at the state level funded by taxpayers that's designed to increase the education of the state populace without as much influence on where they choose to study, meaning that they can choose to go to a 2-year or a 4-year. That implementation out of New Mexico, which I think has been quite successful, at least from what I've observed, feels a little bit more empowering to the student rather than selecting some institutions but not others. It definitely is interesting. On the Penn side, it's got to be politics, I guess, if they're trying to protect their brand from this. I'm not sure. And the only thing I'll say is I always worry about economic models in these cases. You're talking about trying to reduce the cost of education dramatically in this case. And the question is, how sustainable is that and for how long? And how long is that funding guaranteed? Because, it doesn't help anybody to, cut tuition by 80% and then, in 3 years have to, set it back to where it was again. So to me, we want to see like long-term models that make sense. I do like states stepping up to keep students in state. There's a whole separate topic for another podcast about importing versus exporting education, meaning like as a state, are you educating your own students and keeping those tuition dollars in state and generating tax revenue from them? But not being a tax strategist or a policymaker, the implementation here is questionable at best, at least to the novice like me on the sideline. I don't know. This whole thing seems either rushed or just oddly implemented.
It'll be interesting to watch. I grew up on a dairy farm and was very grateful for the scholarships that I received and the state funding that I received to go to college. So, this is the type of program that would have directly benefited me. So don't get me wrong. I am also a champion for these types of opportunities, especially in a state, Pennsylvania ranks 48th in the nation for college affordability and 49th for state spending on higher ed. So let's be clear, something needs to happen. That. Yeah. Right? Like Pennsylvania is ripe for a new program to maybe breathe life into access opportunities for low to middle income students. But it just doesn't feel fair to give Penn State that pass. And I'm curious to see what the response is. This is really new, right? So what will the response be? How will it roll out? You can guarantee we're going to wind up circling back on this at some point this year because I'm sure it'll be a hot topic.
Totally.
But with that, friends, we are at the end of this episode, and
it goes so quick.
It goes so fast. And if you're listening on like 1.2, 1.5x, like, man,
then we're really moving.
Just flew right by. But I hope everyone will stay tuned because the very first Pulse Check mini series drops on February 1st. Shane Baglini from Muhlenberg College is in fact the host of this special 4-part series called A Guide to Graduate Marketing in 2024. He's going to cover grad program marketing, the role of AI and other technology, the student experience. He's got some incredible guests, and over the course of the next 4 weeks, you're going to get to hear this deeper dive on this really important topic. Seth, any parting words?
No, just thanks for having me. I made it back to episode 2, so I guess it's going okay so far. I'm having a blast and just appreciate the chance to be here.
We'll see if you show up for episode 3 or not, right?
Fingers crossed.
All right, thanks everybody. We'll see you next time. The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.